How's it going, everybody? I got some good news. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Took and passed the test on the second, and this is actually the first time I've had to uh, cover the material that I've passed, and feels pretty good. Right now, I'm been studying like a rabbit for the CCNP switch. Um, I'm using CBT nuggets still for that, and also using INE's workbooks for layer 2. And I went through the videos for both INE and CBT nuggets to see what all it is that I need to study. And a lot of it's generic. A lot of it's just a little more deep dive than the CCNA on spanning tree and VLANs and routing them. The one thing that CCNP brings into the field is layer 3 switching on a much bigger scale. And currently I have my rack of equipment. It's not turned on right now, but it is up and functioning. And one of the things that I've been working with that is pretty much getting it situated to where when I get on it, I'm jumping into layer 3 switching right here. I can route VLANs via a router on a stick any day of the week, practically with my hands tied behind my back. So I definitely have that down. The layer 3 switching is not any more difficult than router on a stick, except for the fact that you're not putting the configuration on the router, you're putting it on the switch. And all you're doing is you're creating a logical interface, like a loopback, except for the fact that, unlike a loopback, the switch virtual interface, or the interface VLAN and whatever VLAN it is you want to route for, that's going to be what routes your VLANs. So the VLAN routing is done on here. The benefit to that is instead of having to leave the switch, go to a router, the router figures out where it's got to go, shoots it back out to the switch, and the switch receives the incoming packets, or I should say the frames. With layer 3 switching, you can do what they call ether channel, or you can bond multiple 100 megabit or gigabit interfaces together to get much higher throughput to your neighboring devices. So if you have, say for instance, a layer 3 switch here, now these are 3550 24 port switches, so you may have a 3550 that's running 48 ports. So you can make a couple of SVIs routing all your VLANs, and you've got the entire backplane of the switch doing your routing. So you can go in there, and everything stays on the switch, so your throughput is, well, through the roof, really. So I've been studying that, and there's a lot more wireless in the CCNP, and there's a lot more security in the CCNP, where they get really granular. I mean, there's still switch port security with turning port security on, and then there's also, beyond that, you get 802.1x, and you're able to point your authentication with your AAA towards a Radius or TACAX server, or you can do login local, which means you have a user database like you would for SSH. So in regards to that, it really doesn't make much of a difference one to the next, but it's still, the option is there. So for those that are studying for Radius and TACAX, what I've done, I haven't actually made it work yet, but what I've done is I've got a Server 2003 VM that I've got in my Hyper-V, or I'm sorry, my VMware Workstation 9 environment. I turn that on, and then as long as I can have the VM connected to the internet, I can also turn my switch on, and I can use that as an ACS server, so that I can turn TACAX on, and then eventually get into that when I get to the security track. Currently, right now, I'm not going security like I planned on going security, and the reason for that, I realized that after taking a higher paying job, that the benefits that I was reaping from having a higher paying job were taken away when I got the higher paying job. So right now, after having discussed some things with my wife, the money that we were saving is now being sent out to other bills that have popped up, and quite frankly, what I I was benefiting from higher pay. Now we're pretty much where we were back when I was making lower pay because of the increase in other bills. So now that I've got the CCNA, I've put my resume back out there. Just curious to see what'll pop up. I'm obviously looking for a networking position, and I'm hoping I want to go back through the CCNP Switch series one more time, and I plan on doing that this weekend. A couple hours each day at work. I can cover 4 or 5 videos while I'm at work, reading some books, and then on the weekend, on Sunday, I plan on going through a good portion of the videos. And like I said, going through the switch section is going to be pretty simple for the actual first 2/3 or so of the videos, which is covering spanning tree again, covering VLANs and trunking. The one thing that they don't go into detail yet is .1Q tunneling, and I plan on doing that, which seems pretty straightforward as long as you have layer 2 end-to-end. So like this is an entire layer 2 domain. Well, actually it is now since I've set it up. I've got it actually set up to where it's all VLANed up, and all of these connections, well, I've rewired the switches since I've taken this picture, and actually this guy right here is like the breakout switch, and I've got 2 trunk lines going to that, and they're all .1Q tunneling or trunking. So what I plan on doing at this point is probably this weekend I will set up .1Q tunneling for the first time just to see what it's like. Is there any difference? Is it any faster? And that'll give me at least some tunneling experience when it comes to it. And then I have all of the routers that you see here connected to this guy. So what does that mean? Well, what that does at this point is I can configure HSRP, VRRP, first hop redundancy protocols. So let's say, for instance, this is let's say you're using a collapsed core design where you've got your core and your distribution being the same box, the same switch. Well, you can set up HSRP or a first hop FHRP, first hop redundancy. So if anything, let's say this guy is your primary router, this guy is your backup. So you would be sending information from this switch to this router. Well, let's say, for instance, this line gets cut. Well, what happens after a few seconds, depending on which protocol you're using, I believe VRRP is slightly faster, and it's the open source. HSRP is Cisco proprietary. But what it does is it takes the information that was sending here and it reroutes it this way. So it knows that it has 2 different ways off the network. It just has to choose which one is best. So you can configure that using various commands, and I'm actually going to walk through all of that and show you guys how that works, because that's going to be a big deal. And then there's also this concept of private VLANs, where you're on larger platform switches like the 6500 series, the 4500 series. They support it better than the 3560. So basically what I'm going to end up doing is renting some rack time, because 3550s don't support them. And what I'll do is I'll configure that a couple times just so I've gone through it, I know what's going on, break it, see how to fix it, that type of stuff. And then beyond that, a lot of the security is conceptual. A lot of the wireless is conceptual. Teaching you how it goes back to if you have an older version CCNA, you probably saw some wireless in there to where you know that A, B, and G are the standards. Then you've got your various bandwidth speeds per standard. A is got its setups and stuff like that. Then you probably also learned how to channel separate and using different SSIDs. And one of the things that I just realized is you can put different SSIDs to different VLANs and stuff like that. So that's something I'm going to go in and learn how to do. And I don't have the wireless network here at home to do that, because you obviously need access points that are capable of running VLANs, and none of mine do. I have a simple Cisco Linksys router that I've turned into just a simple access point. And that simple access point, I turned DHCP off on it. I have the Ethernet cable plugged into the LAN port, so it doesn't think that it's a routed it's not a routed port anymore. It's all it is. Well, it is. If Ceph was running on it, you would see a Ceph port pointing back towards my router that I'm actually sitting right next to. Which actually, if you look right here, that's it right there. So basically, what you see here is my rack. I'm gonna have frame relay working this weekend. I'm gonna get that up and running, and then all the rest of this stuff right here, I'm gonna work on getting that situated. But that's the rack, and then got my CCNA, and then this is my CCNP topology, and you're probably going, wow. I went through the CCNP route series a while back, probably end of 2012, last 5 or 6 months ago, and basically what I did was, when I was going through route, I was actually building these topologies independent of each other. So it's like you have regular EIGRP, then I had EIGRP over frame, then OSPF, and you have, area 0. These guys are all area 0, and then these guys are area 10 and 20. That's where I learned how to do multi-area OSPF, and then how you get inter-area routes versus intra-area routes, different LSA types. And then there's OSPF over frame, and then you got a couple different types. You've got regular NBMA, you've got point-to-point between these two guys, and then you've got hybrid, which is probably some other non-broadcast or something to that effect. I don't remember exactly what this one was. Actually, to be honest with you, I was struggling with OSPF and frame relay, so I gave up, because what I initially did was, on this topology here, is I had a frame switch here, I had a frame switch here, I had a frame switch here, and here. Actually, all the frame relay networks. So it was, I had one here, one in between here, because where you see the 201 and 301, one here and one here. So I was running a lot of frame, but what I realized was in GNS3, when you've got it pulled up, these guys, it conflicts. It doesn't know which one it should actually be routing for, so it won't work. So I actually haven't fired it up to see if it's actually going to work, but what I did was this. As you can see, I have port 3 up here, router 3 is how I was able to make the recollection, is actually routing ports 5, 6, 7, 8, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and out the appropriate DELCs. And as you can see, I have the DELCs labeled next to it. So what that does is it allows me to run one frame switch and route all the different topologies through it. So I was sitting there like, I wonder how I can make this work. And like if you see down there, it says port 15 has got 3 DELCs going to it: 103, 603, 503. So the different network types, I'll have to make sure that I keep it situated, and I have the DELC numbers associated with that, so I know if it's going from router 1 to router 3 in that respect, that's how it's going to go. And I have it, the port number is going to reflect the router number. So if you see port 18 at the bottom, is going to go to router 18 here over here. So I have it set up that way so that I know what's going on. Now I've got 2691s running in here, and I've actually got the wrong image. So I'll have to. It really doesn't matter because it's advanced IP services. That's still pretty good. Not quite as beefy as advanced enterprises. But what I could always rebuild this. It's not a real big deal. But I've already got it built out. So in most cases, if you've already got a topology built, and you can get if you can get EIGRP running and get authentication going, and you can do unequal cost load balancing, set it up for 2, 3, and 4 variances, and then get your multi-area OSPF set up and get that running. Because, and actually, I'll walk you through this. I have regular EIGRP, regular OSPF. So it's EIGRP. There is no concept of areas because every EIGRP router can summarize. Because you may have 100 routes behind here, but you can give it one summary route. And actually, I'm going to reshoot my summary route summarization video because after having studied the CCNA again, I got really good with NAT. I got really good with access control, and I had to go back through and make sure I really understood summarization because I was struggling with some of the IP addresses I was seeing, because I was seeing like 172.16.112, and I'm like, well, 112 is above 64 and below 128, so it'd be a /17. and I was constantly getting the question wrong. /18, constantly getting the question wrong. I was like, well, what am I doing wrong? And then I realized 112 is not that one. You have to go figure out what range of subnets it's actually covering that 112. Is it 112 through 116? Is it a 4 subnet range? And then from there, it's going to be a 4. So you figure out what the base network is on that one. So you do your subnetting 0, 4, 8, 12, 16 down the road. So you hit the 112 if that's the case. And then once you find that, you know that it's going to be a 4 would be the binary digit. So counting from left to right, 128, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4. It's going to be 2 and 1. They're going to be the last one. So it's going to be a /22. Or maybe a /21. I think it's a /22 though. So you know that you're going to advertise 172.16.4, or you're going to put the 112 in there /22. So it'll know that's the summary route for that one. But I'm going to go through, shoot a video for that, and go that route. Like I said, I have EIGRP and OSPF over here. Then I have EIGRP over frame relay. Then I have OSPF over frame relay, and the 3 different types of network types that there is: point-to-point, non-broadcast, and there's a hybrid, which Jeremy was mentioning, but I never actually got that far with it because I got frustrated with it, and I said, you know what, I'm at the point now, well, back then, where if I'm frustrated with it, I don't completely understand it. So I took a step back. Actually, the first time on my second attempt at the CCNA, which I failed, I actually got really teed off, and I said, I'm going right for the CCIE. Went out, bought the book, bought some videos, bought the workbooks, and here I am 6-7 months later. I passed the CCNA. Really happy about that for one. And basically what I'm doing now is I'm going through and, like I said, CCNP switch. So that's what I'm studying right now. But I could easily add in some switches in here and get some good old-fashioned some layer 3 ether channel, layer 2 ether channel. I don't know if it'll do it in GNS3. I know it'll do it in my real equipment and in Packet Tracer. I might do some videos in Packet Tracer just to demonstrate layer 2 and layer 3 ether channel, which it's really, really simple once you get it situated. And then I'll do the advanced stuff on my lab equipment once I'm all said and done. And then over here I've got basic BGP. And what I mean by basic BGP, I mean that in the simplest form that all I did was it's routing OSPF as its backbone, as its internal routing at the IGP, and then all I have is BGP running here and here, and then this is considered the ISP. So basically all I did there was 3725, 2691. So basically all I did was get BGP running here so that these guys would have a route out here. So BGP is technically not, it doesn't have its own routing protocol. Like it doesn't have a protocol 88 or 89 where EIGRP is 88, OSPF is 89. BGP is actually more of an application layer routing protocol because it uses TCP port 179 and it maintains TCP sessions for its keep alives and many other things. There's actually like a 13-step process for its path selection process. So that's my like basic BGP topology, and then over here is my advanced BGP. That's where you get path attributes and you can path selection and stuff like that. And as you can see, I have connections to a lot of different things. So like here I got some Ethernet stuff, so I can do like point-to-point stuff, and then be routing, say EIGRP in here and be exchanging routes and redistributing EIGRP or BGP into EIGRP, stuff like that. And then my BGP route, or my BGP, my advanced BGP. And the one thing I don't have in here is my advanced redistribution, but that's a whole other episode in itself. And then down here I have my policy routing. So I will go back through and learn how to policy route. And all policy routing is you're taking you configure an access list, your permit or deny statements, you permit a range, you deny a range, and then you create a route map, which allows you to stick that on and say this will be your policy routing router. So you go in here and you put your route map, which basically is, if you've ever done basic programming, you say if-then loops, which in the case of route maps, it's match and set. If a packet matches this IP address that you mentioned in the access list, and it matches, what do you want to do with that? Do you want to which way do you want to send it? Do you want to deny it? Do you want to permit it? Which way are you going to send it? Stuff like that. So route maps are really, really powerful. They're used in redistribution. They're used in policy routing. They're used in BGP manipulation. So there's a lot of different places you can use that with. And eventually I'm going to draw up a MPLS topology to when I get that situated and jump into that. That's where I'm going to go. Now you probably noticed that there's like 35 routers on this screen, and no, I will not fire them all up at the same time. My computer would freak out if I was to do that. So what I would end up doing is I would turn on EHRP, do these, and then if I was going to do any type of frame, I would turn these routers on, and eventually what I would do, I wouldn't do it all at one time because it would just, like I said, my computer would freak out because I'd have to actually recalculate an idle PC value, and I don't want to do that right now. So what I would end up doing is firing up the routers that need to get fired up, and then go from there. So at this point in time, I'm not. I could do most of what's on the screen here off the top of my head, but what I'm actually looking at is sometime. It's now, as you can probably see, it's 4/5, so it's April 5th, and I'm hoping. I actually have to save up some money because I don't have any money to schedule another Cisco exam, but I'm planning on spending the next 2 to 3 weeks, and school will be over in a few weeks anyway, so I'll be thankful when that's all situated. But I plan on doing the switch stuff over the next few weeks, making sure that I'm good with all of the spanning tree and VTP and first hop redundancy stuff and things of that nature, because the last thing you want to do is walk into the switch exam and go, how do I turn on port security? What is the command for maximum allowed MAC addresses? So, and then as I'm going through this stuff, I'll do a conceptual video, and then I will kick off actually configuring it and verifying it so you guys can see how it's going. And actually, that benefited me a lot for the CCNA, because then I was able to say, okay, I'm weak here, not 100%, so if I can't explain it in basic terms to somebody, whether it's a advanced topic or if it's just an entry-level topic, I need help in that area. So that's what helped me get the CCNA, and I got almost a 900 on that exam. So considering, I think it was 45 questions and I took about 45 minutes to take the test, there was only a handful of questions that I was kind of not sure on, but I think what Cisco did, to be honest with you, is, and I don't think this is breaking NDA, because I'm not mentioning what specifically what questions I saw, but I believe I remember seeing that Cisco will throw questions at you on the exam that aren't actually graded. So you might get a question like, for instance, if you have two routers, they're both running OSPF, and then you add a third in there, will the third router added be talking or sending hellos to the non-directly connected router? Well, I don't know. I would assume so, because the fact that it's going to be exchanging LSA or LSUs, link state updates and link state advertisements, and hellos with the other router, with a directly connected router. So I don't know. I'm curious to find that answer, figure that out, answer that question. So I'm not sure what the answer to that one is, but if you know it, shoot me an email. Tell me what the question. Tell me the answer if you know it. I'm curious to find out. But right now, basically, all I'm doing, like I said, is going through and um, just studying. I don't think I have a lot to do with Switch because, like I said, I'm already pretty good at switching. It'd be one thing if I was just starting out and I was like, oh, I'm not sure what a VLAN is, but I'm sitting here teaching you guys how this stuff works. So if I can't do it after I've explained it, then something's wrong. So, like I said, it's just a matter of time before I'm all the way through, and you guys are, oh, quick thank you to everybody for the Facebook messages. I definitely, actually, I was a bit surprised. I'm at 13 subscribers and almost 600 videos viewed. So whether they're just a couple of minutes you guys are watching them, or if you're sitting there listening to me for the full half hour, 45 minutes, that's a big thank you to me, and or a big thank you to you guys, I should say. So I'm hoping somebody's actually benefiting from these videos, and that I'm not full of hot air. But that's pretty much where it sits. This is, like I said, what you see on the screen is my topology, and I'm planning on going through over the next, I don't know, few months. Well, I don't even think it's going to take me that long. It's already April. I'm thinking by June I should be near the end of my CCNP. And I've been in the industry for a little while now, almost a year, and I've got some hands-on experience, well, actually every day. So I get this stuff. So a lot of what I deal with every day is what I bring home when I'm discussing with you guys. Stuff that I see day to day on the job, and what do I have to do to fix it? What do I do to troubleshoot it? I bounce ideas off of people that have been there for a while. They bounce ideas off of me. So in regards to that, there's really no substitution for experience. And realistically, it's one of those type of situations where you may, well, and this is coming from experience on the job, I come into a situation where I know the technologies, I understand how they work, so if you understand those two concepts, you can pretty much troubleshoot it from there. So you'll have at least a solid level of understanding to troubleshoot if you understand what the technology is, because there's certain things that have to work in order for that technology to work. If something isn't working, something in configuration may have been broken, or it was implemented incorrectly, because there are certain ways to set up the routing protocols to do what they're supposed to do, but it won't actually perform the way that it's expected to. So these are things you'll have to look into if you see an issue with something. But right now, all you guys have to worry about is making sure that what you have on your screen and what you're learning are the same thing. So if you understand how EIGRP works at a fundamental level, that's the core concept right there. Understand the technology. If you understand the technology and you understand how it works, and you can implement and you can verify, and if something doesn't work in between those two, that's where your troubleshooting comes in. So you either goofed up, maybe you fat-fingered a command or an IP address, which does happen. It happens to everybody. Matter of fact, I fat-fingered a couple things today troubleshooting the situation, and I was like, why is it not pinging? And I was like, oh, it would help if I put the right IP address in there. And you get people to laugh. You gotta keep it light when you're in a stressful situation. And I find that maybe cracking a joke here and cracking a joke there, they may have been tense with you on the phone at first because they're, maybe somebody else is breathing down their neck, and they're calling you because they don't know what to do. You're technically their last resort. They don't know where else to turn, so they come to you. So it's your job as the technology person to figure out what's broke, why did it break, and ask questions. Could you be wrong? Oh, absolutely. I'm wrong all the time. But I know how to figure out, okay, if I was wrong, and then I take a step back and be like, okay, how does this actually work? Because if it's not working for this, then what could the problem be? And then you have to take a couple steps back and be like, okay, I know EIGRP. If you don't put the no auto summary command in there and you just put in 172.16, then I know it's going to default back to the classful range. So it'll show up as a /16 in the routing table, and it'll encompass that entire range. So you definitely need to make sure you turn no auto summary off, or type in no auto summary, and then make sure you implement 172.16.00000.255. So you say I only want to advertise the class C range, and then go through that, and then that'll help you figure out where maybe you were doing some bad summarization. Maybe you're sending too much. Maybe an access list wasn't allowing that much, and it was denying it. Things of that nature. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. You guys have listened to me long enough. So I just want to give you guys a shout and let you know what's going on. And I know you've been looking at this topology and you're like, oh, well, I know all the IP addresses he's using. Yeah, that's nice. With that being said, I will be shooting some more videos in the coming days and months and years and all other good stuff. So I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.